Hello everyone, and hey, it's been a while. It's only been like 3 weeks ever since the last video, but I know for a fact that it will take quite a while to edit this video, so let's not even pretend that this video is gonna be out on time, okay? I'm really sorry that the last video didn't come out as it should have been, like on the right date, but art school was a lot more tiring than I was expecting, and yeah, I got really tired in the evening and just couldn't get myself to do anything, but that isn't a proper excuse, and I do apologize. As for why this video is out very late, isn't really because I'm busy, but because I didn't really know what to talk about in the next video, except that I just happened to record a certain drawing that I was doing for a commission, and I thought, hey, why not talk about that? So, in case you're not aware, I had the commissions open, and for a long time I was busy with a very specific commission that made me not be able to have my commissions open for 5 months. It was by far the biggest project I had ever needed to work on. Well, except for my finals project in high school, but that's a different story. That doesn't count. Anyway, so the basics of the commission was that I needed to create 9 different races for a D&D tabletop streaming project, as far as I have understood. If you don't know what D&D is, you are not spending enough time on the internet. But yeah, so what I know, well, surface level, is that D&D is a tabletop role-playing game where basically there's one person leading the story, the D&D master, if I'm not wrong, and the rest are always rolling a dice before a situation, and it just say like, I'm going to destroy this rock, and then the dice decides if this attack works or not, and you also have to stay consistent with the character you have created for yourself for that roleplay. That is the basic knowledge I know of D&D. I probably miss a lot of important stuff that is also going on in this kind of game. I have no idea how this works, so please forgive me. I'm a weeb, not a geek, okay? Those are two different things. Well, okay, there isn't a very clear line, so whatever. The name of the commissioner was Ivy Christus, and they have actually commissioned me in the past, and they are very nice to work with. They're really patient. Yeah, it's just been nice to talking to them in general, and I thought, you know what, we talked a lot about it, and it was an actually really interesting project, so I thought, if I already am not exactly directly participating in it yet, wink wink, I thought, hey, why not promote it a little bit? It could be fun. And I also thought it might be an interesting idea to also a little bit explain what my thought process was during designing those characters. Now, 2 warnings. 1, I am not a professional character designer, so there are going to be a lot of flaws you probably see with my thought process. So don't see this as like a professional way of looking at character designing in general. There are really good videos out there for that, so don't rely on me, please. And second, you might have noticed that I said they for Ivy Christus, and that's because they're non-binary. I'm not saying this to give special attention to that, but a few months ago or something, the last time I saw on their Twitter, they had in the description said that they identified as a female, and they have recently changed that, and my brain doesn't register changes very quickly, so I will probably use the wrong pronouns. So in case that happens, I will correct myself when doing editing, so I apologize already in advance if that happens. Now, let's just jump into it. I'll try to make it as short as possible, even though we're already 6 minutes into the recording, so this will be fun. The very first race for this commission was Coralloni, the Sea People. I'm also really sorry if I mispronounced those names. I do not know how to pronounce any of them. Coralloni, people of the ocean and sea who are mainly used in the system for their inept ability to fish and collect minerals from the ocean floor. They have fins for ears and gills on their necks and arms. They have natural body armor made of coral that they can magically summon as a bonus action. They are natural athletes and quick on their feet. They have an on-land speed of 30 feet and an in-water speed of 50 feet with an ability that takes up an action of a spurt of speed in the water that has them move 60 feet for 20 seconds. Dark vision 60 feet when they are underwater, and I just realized that it's probably not feet that I'm supposed to read. I do not know what this is supposed to refer to, but I guess it's some sort of speed measurements that I'm just not aware of. I'm sorry, you Americans. Anyway, there were obviously more information than just that on it, but that's like the basics of the race to them. And what I first started doing is that I looked up references right away. So I already had a basic idea of what I wanted them to look like, but I didn't really know what to do for the coral armor, so I looked up on those. And I actually found interesting types of coral. I didn't realize how varied corals could look like, and I found one very specific coral that was brownish and had like really flat surface, and I thought, hey, this actually looks like a good basis for armor, or at least clothing. So I kind of based it around that. I also just think that green and yellow are an interesting color combination, especially with this kind of green color. I guess you could call it turquoise, something like that. Anyway, I just thought the color combination of it was really nice. There isn't much to say about this one because everything went pretty well. There weren't really any problems. The only thing that really bothers me about those drawings, looking at them right now, are the hands, or at least the ones that are holding the crystals. There isn't that much to talk about, except that I wanted to intentionally make the fins of the female a little longer. I don't know where this comes from, but I think I heard somewhere that sometimes females in nature sometimes just happen to have things a little bigger than men. Or maybe I'm just thinking about mosquitoes, who knows. Maybe a mosquito was bothering me that day. Things went pretty smoothly on that part, but I do want to give a little disclaimer here. When you make character designs, you usually should make more than at least 3 designs before deciding on one, and not just do one and then just present it like that. But I knew this was a very long commission, that this was going to take a long while, so I didn't want to waste time on that. And I just decided if Ivy Christus didn't like the designs, I'm just gonna change them later on. It's no biggie. So basically how I did it is that I would always do the concept art first of the puppet sketches, what I like to call them, and then later make a proper sketch of the final drawing, so that in the concept sketch I can still change how they're supposed to look like, and just have a little bit of a model of reference to use later for the final image. It's always good when you design anything that you make first a puppet sketch and then the final illustration with it, so that you know what to base it off from. And then the commissioner also has just a sheet of how they're supposed to look in general, and not how they just look in a different position, so that's also a positive, I guess. The second race is Finari, the people of the land. Finari are a gentle race that is used in the system as a foreigner's race. They are generally made of some sort of plant life. They use their natural magic to make plants and herbs to grow faster and healthier. The more they use this power, however, the more exhausted they become, so it is wiser to use it slowly. They are also natural born healers and often use the plants around them for medicinal purposes. They are extremely intelligent and wise, and they tend to have long thought out discussions about the situation the world is in. Now, the first time that Christus had given me this commission, I was immediately thinking about all these fantasy wood people, especially from Lord of the Rings, and I felt like I was going into a trap there, that I would rely too much on tropes. So at first I tried to think of something of my own and didn't look at references, which is a terrible idea, by the way. Always do use references. Jesus Christ. And if I find a sketch, I'm gonna show you how it looked like before, but the concept sketch basically had their hands and feet look really different, and Ivy ended up saying that it looked a little bit weird, and so I decided, okay, let's go a little bit more cliche, I guess. I think I gave myself a bit too much pressure on making them all look too unique, that it kind of blocked me a little bit in some of the designs, and you're going to see a little bit throughout the video that I've had a lot of moments like that for a lot of them. Anyway, so I was having some trouble with the designs of that one in particular. I couldn't exactly decide where the wood parts were gonna be, where the wine parts were gonna be, but at some point I figured it out a little bit, and I liked the idea that maybe the female one would have like a flower in the back, like it was some tied up hair in the back, and I really liked how it looked. I also decided to also have some plants growing out of them in the final illustration because they are supposed to be plant people, and I specifically used plants that are used for healing, or at least for medical purposes. I don't remember how they're called, but I really like drawing them. It gave me a little bit of practice how to draw flowers as well and plants. So, win-win situation, I guess. Also, I really like how the baskets turned out. Holy crap, I love them so much. I didn't realize how much I loved them until right now. Oh my god. Then we have Magran, the giants. Magran are the giant race that have been around since before humans ever existed. They live in a mountain range and are often found in dormant volcanoes as well. Their skin is made of hardened, cracked obsidian with magma running through their system and running down the cracks in their skin. They have an ability to make their saliva magma that they use to shape and make swords and such. They are the blacksmiths of the world, and they are often used for weapons and tools for other tasks such as mining and farming. They also can break down gems with their teeth so as to make it easier to melt them down. Wise and strong, they do not have dark vision, however, they have a natural glow to them at all times that glows up to 10 feet away. The only way to make the glow stop is to douse them with water, and then the water lasts 10 minutes before the magma heats up and glows once more. This one gave me some trouble, not so for the design in general, but because the female one gave me a bit of a headache. I don't know what was wrong with me in my head, but I basically didn't give any differentiating features to the female Magaran, and so it just kind of looked like the male one, but just a few small differences in them. And maybe I just tried to make one of the races just look very similar to each other, just so there's some variation, I guess. I'm not really sure, but Ivy was right to tell me that this wasn't what they intended. Because it really did not look all that great, honestly. So I had to play around with that idea a little bit more to see what to do with that. And I ended up to properly get the idea of the body shape. I generally like the design of the Magaran that I came up with, except with the teeth. You can barely see the teeth. I was really trying my best to make the teeth be seen, but I just couldn't figure out what color to use, and they're supposed to be obsidian, so it was a bit difficult to figure out what to even do. Not to mention that up until this point I thought obsidian was a made up mineral by Minecraft. I'm not joking. I'm that stupid. It was actually really fun to play around with, especially because I got to use a special feature on Clip Studio. I've mentioned it before, but it's a bit difficult to explain just like that. But there is a option in the layers you can make to have your lines have borders, and that's what I used for the magma, or at least for the sketching. For line art, it's not very useful because I need to shade and stuff, but for like sketching, it's a really good way to like orient yourself how the patterns are supposed to look, so it kind of worked well, and I really liked how the magma stones turned out. I don't know how to call that. And I had just in general a lot of fun playing with the lights a little bit and how the shades would look like if the glow would emerge from the body itself, and it just is so cool. So yeah, I had a lot of fun, especially because I had to figure out how to make them really, really big, because a part of the description was that they are really tall, and I really tried my best to make sure that they're posing in a way that it makes them look gigantic. On the male one, I kind of succeeded on that aspect, but the female one a little less. But I still do like their poses. They're pretty neat. And they do kind of look demonic, so mission accomplished. Next one are Gretchlings, the bodyguards. Living gargoyles, they are tough and used for natural instinct on the battlefield. Their skin is made of stone, making their natural armor class 15. They are either a stone, gray, or an ashen red like most rocks and stones. The elite are often made of metals, but those are extremely rare, and the trait is only given to war generals. They have long elvish ears and can have horns as well, claw-like hands and feet, and long lashing tails with up to 5 spine spears. They also have spine spears from the crown of their head to either their tailbones or all the way down to the base of their tails. The spines can be used as weapons and can be shot out at an enemy about 10 feet away. Once they are gone, they take a long rest to grow back, however, so use them wisely. They are very war heavy and often used as bodyguards or reinforcements on the battlefield. As such, they have learned to be very aware of their surroundings and quick on their feet. They do not have dark vision, however. Their normal speed is 30 feet and they can run extremely fast for periods of 5 to 7 minutes for a speed of 45 feet. I'm probably still saying it wrong with feet. So this one was particularly interesting to me because I had not known that those spikes that are floating around are called spine spears. The first time that Ivy told me to do them, they didn't really explain what that meant, and it was probably supposed to be obvious what it meant, but as someone who isn't that familiar with the English language, I had some trouble what that was supposed to mean. So I had to ask a few times what that actually is supposed to mean, and then I realized that those are like one of the coolest things on character creatures ever. Like, I love those spikes so much. Just the concept that those spikes are just floating around ready to just pierce through enemies. Yeah! I really like the pose I ended up with on the guy Gretchling, but the female one a little less, mostly because she also looks kind of like a demon with her reddish skin tone. So yeah. Obviously, I took some references for Gretchlings. I learned my lesson from last time, so yeah, I had to look around a little bit for those. I had particularly fun to figure out how to make their skin look like stone. Usually I would try to make them look like stone in my own way, like maybe trying to be a bit more illustrative about it and just kind of draw it in a way to make it clear it looks like stone, but I decided, you know what, this is a commission, let's make it look good. So I used some brushes to make it a little bit more stone-like, and I kind of like the effect it got. I really like the pose of the male Gretchling, but on the female one, I don't know, it doesn't look as dynamic, but I also didn't just want it to have the exact same pose as the other one. So you win some, you lose some. Also, I'm not going to explain everything I thought about in the creating process because a lot of it is already written in the description, so that should give you an idea why I made certain things and why not. So yeah, just so we're clear on that. Next one, homunculi, the frontliners. Created by humans, they are brought to life through Critus, the gem life force connected to crystal trolls at the end of their tails. They are the overpowered human warriors, made to take orders and act as soldiers for the front lines. They have the ability to have feelings because of the life force they have stolen to live, however, most do not take the time to think past their orders, so it is fairly rare for them to tap into those emotions and make decisions for themselves. Pale with stitch markings across their bodies, they are made up of a material similar to human flesh. However, they have no internal organs, only their gem core at the center of their chest. Their eyes are white with a glowing circle for a pupil, the color of their gem. Now, this one was particularly stressful for me because I had to tell myself not to base off the designs of the homunculi from Full Metal Alchemist because, Jesus Christ, the moment I heard homunculi, I was just consistently thinking about lust for some damn reason. I don't know why. So if you see some lust-inspired traits in the female one, I wouldn't be surprised. So in general, because they're homunculi and the color black just pops into my head the entire time, I made their hair go black, but because they're supposed to be like merciless soldiers, I thought the color red would be really suited for the design, except that maybe the bow on the hair of the female kind of takes away that effect. But Ivy said that they liked it, so I guess it's okay. I also made sure that the crystals are green so it contrasts their clothing a little bit. The stitch markings, I will admit, I could have put some more effort on that, because they just look a little bit too big, in my opinion. And also, this was in the first days I started using the rim light effect on my drawings, so I wasn't really sure how to do the metal bits all that well, and they look kind of awkward, and I wish I could say it got a little bit better over time with the other commissions, but you know I can't lie to you guys. The one thing that bothers me the most about this commission is that I tried way too much to make the poses look intimidating, to a point where their proportions and their positions in general and perspective just look kind of weird. Especially on the guy, you can tell that there's something that went wrong with the proportions and perspective, and I really need to stop hiding the other arm. Seriously, where is the guy's other arm? What happened to it? I do like, however, the female position, except that maybe the leg that is like bending a little bit in the back looks a little bit too small. Don't know how that happened, it just did. But yeah, other than that, I like the gradient I gave the red dress, you could say. Anyway, design-wise, this is one of my favorites just because of how simplistic it is, and that it still gives a good idea of who they're supposed to be or what kind of people they're supposed to be. Also, it was kind of a bit of a fresh air for me again to just work on human faces again and not on different kinds of faces for different races. Like, I was so happy to work on human faces again. Jesus. Then, here we have the Crystal Trolls, mining race. They are a species that spent their entire life in mines. Their sole purpose is to mine minerals, gems, and rare metals. Generally, they have dozens of eyes so as to be able to see in the dark of the mines, though they can change the physical appearance of how many eyes they actually have to make it more pleasing for others to look at. Thank God! They also generally have hands made up of crystals or rocks, as well as a crystal shard at the end of their tail that generates magical power to their person and is the main vessel for their life force. They have pigmented skin, normally a complementary color to their crystal. Crystal trolls are so immersed in the mining that they actually develop mineral properties, such as their hands being made entirely out of crystals and their bodies being more unnatural colors. Another attribute is that their whole bodies are charged with magnetic energy, so that if they accidentally cut off a limb, it floats and stays connected to their bodies through the magnetic energy. As a result, they hate magnets because they are drawn to them and generally get stuck on their body and are really hard to get up. I really like how there's like this little flaw in their species just to make it a little harder whenever there's like a metal place or something for magnetics. It's great. I love that little detail. They can use their tails as a weapon since the crystal shards are typically sharp, but keep in mind if their tail shatters or cracks during a battle, it will be in a critical state. Crystal trolls also have the ability to use the crystal on the ends of their tails as a weapon, but they must be careful and keep in mind if someone is able to break the magnetic energy between their tail and their crystal, and takes the crystal, their spirit will leave their body and be trapped in the crystal. I was the most excited about this race in particular because this was the one I saw Ivy post the most about, and so I had some references to work from, so that was very convenient. Also, I already knew what kind of skin they would have because I already gave the homunculi a green crystal, so to make an immediate connection with that race and their conflict with each other, I knew that the crystal trolls, in that illustration at least, should have green crystals. I quickly looked up what the complementary color of that particular green I chose would be, and it happens to be a bit of a purplish. I think it was a tiny bit different, maybe a little bit more on the reddish side, but just to make it a little bit more simple on myself, I just chose the most convenient color. I also tried to make sure that the colors didn't clash too much and were in different saturations so that they wouldn't blend too much with each other. This was, I think, the commission in which I had started art school with, and I already had learned a little bit about colors and contrast with the gradients and such, so that was kind of convenient. I personally felt kind of awkward to place the eyes in different places because whenever I look at a design and look at where the eyes are, I just have to think about how the skull must look like, and it's just really freaking me out, honestly. But luckily, Ivy decided to say that they have eyes that pop up in a certain limited amount just to make it a bit more pleasing to the eye, and I'm very thankful for that little detail. I do admit, however, in this design, I wished I had made the crystals on the top of their tail like actual shards. I didn't realize, I think, for the longest time that I should have made them look like shards and not like actual full crystals. So yeah, sorry about that, Ivy. But they did say that they liked it, so guess it wasn't that important. Here we have a bit of a short one. Ukurali, the readers and writers. Living in Chango. I am so sorry. There are readers and magic enthusiasts learning and rewriting and inventing new spells. They are mostly humanoid looking with silver jet fuel skin. Turns colors of purple and green and light. They have one big lens for an eye they use to decipher magic and scripts. Now this one was the part I will fully admit I got a bit lazy. You can probably tell from the design itself that it's not very ambitious or that there's not that much detail to it. But at this point I tried to be a bit more simple about it, and especially because it was during art school, I had to get to see if I can kind of make shortcuts along the way. But this one is one of my favorite designs, honestly. Maybe my absolute favorite because of the jet fuel skin. Honestly, I didn't at first know what Ivy meant with jet fuel skin because I didn't know what she meant with jet fuel. So I looked it up for a second, and those are the most pretty colors I have ever seen. Like, such a pretty color palette that I thought, let's use the shit out of it. What an opportunity! It took a bit of a while to figure out where the colors should go, and as you know, in character designs you have to make sure that you use a limited palette, so I had to be a bit smart about where I put the colors, and in general, I honestly really like how it turned out. It was a bit of a lazy design, but I still liked how it looks. However, the eyes bother me just a tiny bit because it was supposed to be lens-like, and Ivy told me later that they are supposed to look like they're... And I haven't really drawn blind people before, like, I'm not really sure how to illustrate that just yet, so I'm hoping it does good. Also, do not ask me why I put feathers on it. I think I was thinking about the quills I think you use for inking and stuff, like how they used to write in the old ages, so maybe that comes from there, but honestly I kind of forgot. It kind of makes them look like Indians, so sorry about that. Our second last are the Latrans, the scavengers. Living mainly in the desert region of Citrus, they're a tribalistic coyote-like race. They tend to live in small groups but don't create bonds. They will form larger groups to bring down a powerful enemy of force, but groups like these are only temporary. They greedily hoard food for themselves, becoming overtly hostile whenever anyone outside of their pack so much as implies sharing. Pack tactics. They have advantage on an attack roll against the creature if at least one of their allies are within 5 feet of the creature and the ally is incapacitated. And I just realized I was describing how they work in the tabletop game instead of what they're supposed to be. Anyway, so this one was a little bit funny to work with because I didn't know how to look up references for scavengers because all the time the birds would show up, and then like the smart person I am, I had to ask my friend for advice how to look that up, and they just said you could just add human into the Google search, and I did that, and you know these moments when you realize that you're just a tiny bit dumber than you thought you were? Yeah, that was one of those moments. Anyway, so I looked up those kinds of references, and honestly, I was first going to make them full-on furries. Like, I was planning on just drawing animal heads instead of just giving them half human, half animal traits. And I hadn't even started reading Beasters at that point. I generally had a lot of fun with this one in particular because I really wanted to get the poses right in that one. And I realized the way I can use the folds can actually help a lot in figuring out if the leg is actually coming forwards or not. And the female pose, just to me at least, looks really good, and I'm really proud of myself for that one. The male one, well, I have to be honest, I just was so desperate to make sure that he didn't have the same pose as the female one that I just made him sit. What the fuck? I was sure Ivy was gonna tell me, what the hell, why is he sitting? You make him stand up like the female one, what the hell? But luckily they actually like the way I posed him, and so it's alright, I guess. There's a good possibility that the colors don't mix as well as I thought it does, but it does look really nice, especially how the head and stuff is really bright, so the first thing you look at is the head. So I think as a design, it doesn't look so bad. Also, the folds, just nice. But actually, something I need to mention before we go to the next one, I realized that in the other commissions, I only used one layer of shading and one layer of rim lighting. But in this one and in the last one I'm going to show, I accidentally used the second shade layer as well. I was going to only use one for commissions, but for some reason I just kind of forgot about that. I mean, it does look even better with the second shade layer, but it's like there's like this inconsistency between the commissions now, and that just gives me just a slight OCD. Okay, I shouldn't say OCD. OCD is a real mental illness that should be taken seriously, but you get what I mean. And now, the last one. Zokora, the Dragon Child. Genetically modified humans, they were first made in the alchemist's lab in Horken. After many tests, they came up with the ultimate assassins. They are basically half dragon, half human, with scaled arms, legs, and neck to cheeks, the rest human skin. Long scaled tails and wings about 3 inches longer than their arm span. Clawed hands and feet. Naturally stealthy and trained in 3 martial arts, they are lean and strong and are often ninjas, rogues, and a special class called Silent Death. Now, I have a love-hate relationship with this one. On one side, I made sure that there is always a greater contrast with all the colors so that they don't overlap in each other. I also put a layer on it so that I can see how they are in grayscale, and the colors and the poses are amazing in my standards, at least. Like, it's one of the best ones out of them. I think it's the best out of all the commissions, but the scales are ruining it so bad. Especially with me implementing the rim light style now into my drawings. I just don't know what to do with it, and they don't even look consistent between the two characters. Like on the female one, it's like a lot of just random dots, and then on the male one, it's a little bit more organized, and a little less. It's just, I really want to like this picture, but it bothers me so bad. Why didn't I fix that? But yeah, I looked up some references for assassins, and I'm not completely hooked on the clothing style I gave them in general, but I do think it makes them look a little bit unique, and I do like how the colors do work well together. Like, this is one of those pictures, except for the scales, that I really think that it looks pretty good, especially with the hair. God, I love the hair. Anyway, so that's it with the commissions. I didn't plan on taking this long with the commissions, but after art school started, it really took a long time to finish them. Like 5 months, I think. Jesus Christ. I am so sorry. But I had a lot of fun with them, and it did give me quite an experience how long it actually takes to come up with a design and also to make them look good. And just in general, that maybe you think drawing 18 characters is not a lot, but let me tell you from experience now, it takes a lot. So thank you for watching. If you are interested in tabletop games or D&D in general, I'll leave a link of Ivy Krista's account in the description from Tumblr and Twitter. If I find the stream site, I will also link that, just so if you can look at it. And I also should have probably said this in the beginning, Ivy did not tell me to promote this or say anything about it. I just thought it would be an interesting thing to say and something nice just to do. And I did have some fun talking about these creations and how I feel about them and characters. I like most of them, but obviously as an artist, as you know, you will see mistakes and bothersome things that only the artist will know what it is. So thank you for watching. Have a nice day. This video is rushed. And, well, see you next time!